Welcome to Focus Fire Chat. Explore together.
Welcome back for episode 96 of Focus Fire Chat, recorded live on August 11th, 2017 on twitch.tv. Big shout out to the live chat here. Thank you so much for spending your evening with us. This is your host, Blue Crew 86. Alongside me, we have the man who has been said to have the voice of a flower, Justin Sane 0516. Justin, how's the tech working over there?
Oh my gosh, I'm so technologically advanced. Every time I try to do something that has the potential to harm my system, a little message pops up on my screen, like the guy from Jurassic Park that says,
it's a little clippy.
And it's pins, and he says, can't do that. Stop it, dummy. Sure.
What was it? What was he? What was it? Nedry? Dennis Nedry?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm so unsuspecting. It's like, sure, I'd love cookies. What's this? Questionable email from Nigeria?
I won money!
Listen.
Pin says that he did install deep freeze on your computer. So
see, I don't even know what is.
It's fine. It's fine. Just keep doing you.
I do know what that is. Never mind. So no, all the tech is working good. On a week when everything's been breaking. So having a great time. How about you, Blue? How was your week?
Oh my gosh, my week's been full. It's been full. As many people in Discord probably already figured out. It has been a very busy week for myself. Mostly because just work. We've been given more responsibility, I guess you could call it technically. We've basically been upgraded to do what we do with one program for kind of the entire company. And so getting our hands around that whole bag of nonsense has been very interesting. But I did actually let me finish running through. We Mel is not going to be here. She's still kind of working stuff out with life. So it's been proving to be pretty hectic for her. Please be sure to show her support over at Twitter at the Wind of the Stars. And Green is actually off this week due to her moving, but be sure to let her know that we miss her over on Twitter at Green Eyed Music Lover, or, just give her a big what's up in the Discord chat. But real quick, before we run through the intro, I did have something that I wanted to talk about, with everybody. And this is something that I had posted up on the webpage or the website, and also had posted. Well, obviously we have it set so that whenever we post stuff on the website, it automatically will post in Discord and on Twitter, and most of the time on Facebook. I'm still working the kinks out on that one, but this is something that we wanted to talk about to everyone. And I know that some people listen to the podcast and aren't really super involved with social media, in the different avenues of that. So I wanted to give those listeners a chance to also weigh in the same capacity, in the same way that we have given our members in the Discord and on Facebook and on Twitter a window to weigh in. And really what this is I wanted to gauge the feelings of the family here real quick on a development that we're looking at undertaking with the podcasting. We have been approached a few times before by companies to provide advertising within the podcast episodes. And to date, we have turned them away because of a concern of what that would do to the overall feel for the content that we provide to everyone here. However, recently we have received an invitation to become partnered with a company that looks to bridge the gap between content creators, which is like YouTubers and podcasters, and a variety of different sponsors and advertisers. So what this basically means is that instead of random advertisements, our team will have pretty much 100% say in who we support and how we support them in our content. Which brings me to the question of why are we even talking about this? So just to be clear, and just to put this right on the table, none of the podcasting team, none of the FFC podcast team is in this for personal gain. We aren't looking to use money from here to pay bills. The intent is for anything from these sponsors to cover the cost of running the show and invest in making the show even better for everyone. So, and that goes for the Twitch. We got affiliated with Twitch, the bits and everything that goes into or comes in from that. Any of the Podbean crowdfunding, all that that goes for all that as well. But this is where, we as a team want to hear your thoughts. We have always tried to run this community based off the feedback that we receive from everyone, and that this decision is no different. So what we're going to do is we will do our absolute best to ensure that any advertisements that we use in the show are as unintrusive as possible and really are from companies only that we ourselves have experience with. The plan is to continue making content that everyone here enjoys for as long as we can. And basically, this is something that will go a long way towards increasing that longevity. So again, we want to hear your thoughts. If you don't want us to talk about it in Discord, or if you're not already in the Discord, by all means, please jump in the Discord. But if that's something that you don't feel comfortable with, and you have an opinion that's, I want to hear this. Okay. I want to hear feedback from everyone. Please message me privately on Discord, on Twitter, send us an email. I have on our website, we have this up on the post in the community updates section. I have actually embedded a contact form inside that post. So if you go to that post, it will be just a seamless right there. And like I said, I want to hear feedback. I don't care if you are completely against it or completely for it. I just want to know that this is something that you guys as listeners are okay with. And if it's not something you are okay, we have gotten feedback. And so far it has been pretty much in support, and chat right now is kind of doing that as well. They're kind of giving us a positive go ahead, but I want to hear what your guys' thoughts are on this, because again, this is a family that we have kind of built, and we want to continue building it. But at the same time, we don't want to develop this in the wrong direction. And so that basically means I want to hear your guys' commentary. Also, one more thing on there, we are doing the 100th episode giveaway of a digital copy of Destiny 2. I wanted to just remind everyone of that. That is going to be taking place. The giveaway will be taking place on September 8th. So the entries for that, please go ahead and get entered into that if you want to. All we're asking is that you go ahead and you put in a review over on iTunes. Yes, some people who don't listen to iTunes, you will have to register for iTunes. It's pretty painless. Yeah, I believe me, of all the people I'm sympathizing with. But so, and again, that brings up the question of why do you want us to give you reviews on iTunes? Here's the blunt answer. iTunes, whether or not you listen to the podcast via iTunes, or you listen to it via Android Player or Podbean, or I don't even know what else, Stitcher, whatever those out there are, whatever app you do. The thing about iTunes is pretty much the gold standard for how different software companies, or not software companies, different podcast services, I guess, gauge what podcasts to show off. And so what we do is, or what happens is basically iTunes uses their reviews and shares everything off of iTunes. So everything, even if you don't listen to iTunes, basically what happens is that service that you are listening to, unless you're Podbean, Google Play, or Stitcher, which I've actually had to directly give RSS feeds to, unless you're one of those, you are actually listening to something that is a subsidiary or is secondarily pulling the RSS feed from iTunes. So basically what it is we give an RSS, and I mean, this is just a little technical jargon, but this is explaining, my thought process here. This is us basically saying, hey, we want to continue doing this content. And in order to continue doing the content, it kind of helps with attention to get more feedback first off, and then also to help us continue to grow, which is what we've kind of talked about. Every episode we'll throw that into the intro. What iTunes does is it not only provides RSS feed to those services, it actually does provide its ratings and its recommendations for, hey, this podcast really should be on your front page or whatever. So by giving reviews, and I don't care if it's a bad review, that's fine too, because as far as I'm concerned, any criticism is constructive criticism. Within reason. I mean, don't go and be a troll. But if you have a problem with something that we're doing, if one of our mics is squeaking, or you hear background noise, this is an avenue for you to provide that to us. And that is really the only way that we can get better is through that criticism. Honestly, I'll take it any way I can get it. But iTunes also has the secondary benefit of pushing our podcast and our community a little bit out there as well, and helping us to try, making sure that people know that we're here, and making sure that people are aware of our existence, which is a big thing as well for any content creator. But yeah, that's pretty much. And Justin, I don't know, did you want to throw anything in on that one?
Yeah. You should know that if your review or your comment is excessively trolly or ridiculous, Blue's just going to slide it to me. So, I mean, if that's your thing, knock yourself out. Also, to kind of go back to what Blue was kind of talking about, the goals of the podcast and everything. Yeah, we're not looking to make a living doing this. I personally have a goal, and that is to build a tiny house in Blue's backyard so that we can simulcast. But if you guys can get me closer to that goal, I'm all for it. And if these ads make that happen, then we're good. But yeah.
We'll have to run that by Kashin for
no, man. It's easier to ask for
forgiveness.
Permission.
Why is there a trailer in our backyard? Don't ask. He just showed up overnight.
It's not a trailer. It's a tiny house. Okay. He gets really sensitive if you call it a trailer. Yeah. No. Yeah. It's just it's kind of one of those things. None of the ones who have offered us deals have been appropriate. We haven't felt, and this one.
Well, there was just no control. Like, it was all drop-in ads, and
also the ads were with, like, the ad material wasn't
right.
It was like an ad for IKEA in the middle of a podcast.
Or a mattress. So, the mattress ones were my favorite ones.
Well, those are hilarious, by the way.
But yeah, so I mean, and again, I have this all over on the website. Obviously we're all in Discord. I am in Discord. I apologize. This past couple weeks, it has been a little bit insane for me at the office, again, because of a couple changes in job responsibilities for me, in a good way, but it's a bittersweet good way, because basically I'm having to be more present during office hours, which for us is a lot as a system, basically a system admin and system analyst. So we have been doing that, and that's why I've been kind of quiet in Discord. But I am still reading as much as I possibly can. I am trying to keep up with the chat. But that is why I have been quiet. With that. Yeah, it's a feat, but it's something that I do set aside time to kind of go back over at the end of each day, and try to see what I've missed. And and some of you know that I will try to jump in during some of the lulls during the day. But yeah, please let us know either on Discord, on Twitter. I mean, I try to make myself available on pretty much any sorry, chat. Chat is now giving us ads to drop midstream.
Yeah.
So But so that's just something I wanted. It had been something that had come up this week for us to discuss. And like I said, I wanted to give the people who don't necessarily interact a lot with the Discord or on Twitter or anything like that, who just listen to the podcast. I want to give you guys a chance also to weigh in on what you think about that opportunity. So, Justin, if you're good with that, you want to run through the intro and then jump into the conversation?
Sure.
All right, here we go. The topic of today's chat is going to be a look at the lore of the Stormcaller Warlocks. I asked Green to put together a high-level summary of the topic, and this is what she had to say.
Focus and understanding. Understand the storm. Understand the power. Channel it, shape it, but do not control it. The problem with most is they do not understand. They do not realize that the storm, the source of our power, comes from within. We are the storm realized. We face down the conductive mind. Our lightning remains unless we decide to let the hurricane out. Inside, we are harmonious. We are the eye of the storm. The living storm that in beautiful destruction creates a pathway of new hope. We are Stormcallers.
Before we get into that, however, I do have a few housekeeping notes. In our last chat, we took a look at Dead Orbit. If you missed that and have any interest in hearing our thoughts, please be sure to check out the new www.focusfirechat.com for archives of all previous chats, links to the other aspects of Focus Fire Chat out in the internets, and a growing collection of community articles. If you don't mind, please give us some feedback on iTunes to let us know how we're doing as well as helping us to continue to grow. As many of you already know, Focus Fire Chat is a cross-community gathering where the intent is to offer a week-long, in-depth view of a particular subject from within the lore of Destiny and other games. This chat begins every Tuesday morning and runs until the following Tuesday, with topics decided by the group via a poll that begins every Friday and ends on the Tuesday morning of the new chat. Every Friday, at around 10 p.m. Central, we get together to stream a recap of the previous week's chat for those who are unable to participate. Please be sure to give some support to the other podcasts in the Guardian Radio Network, found at theguardiansofdestiny.com. These include Guardian Radio, the first and longest-running Destiny podcast on the net, Guardian 1, Ghosts and Echoes, which also has the Destiny Audio Grimoire, and the network's newest edition, a non-Destiny-focused podcast, Paragon Radio. Our next chat's going to be a look at the lore of the wielders of the Fist of Panic themselves, the Striker Titans. With all that being said, let's go ahead and dive into the information and thoughts that the community had about Stormcallers. Lorebot, let's go.
Query Grimoire Database. Results found. Displaying on screen.
Thank you, Randy. It's good to hear your voice. So, Stormcaller. The Stormcaller subclass it is the newest subclass we currently have. It's the one that was added in TTK at the same time as the Tink Tink or Sunbreaker Titan, and also the Night Stalker Hunter. It's a subclass I didn't even really get around to playing until a little bit later. But also the intro summary from Green was quite amazing, I thought. And big shout out to Lady Desiree for the piano work on it. It's pretty freaking amazing.
She's pretty awesome.
Man, check her out. If you haven't seen her videos, check her out. We will link her in the show notes.
I will.
To this
I will
episode.
be sure to link her. For sure.
Anyways,
what was that? What was that? What show is that from?
Workaholics.
Workaholics, that's right.
Yeah. So now that I had one job, Blue.
Yes, I've actually derailed Justin.
So, anyways, getting back to the Stormcaller. The Stormcaller Warlock, in my opinion, is one of the most aesthetically cool subclasses. That hurts to say. You
sir, are a liar.
It looks the coolest, I think. Just because the whole aesthetic of you, and then of course tickle fingers. But it's not my favorite overall to use, but it is one of the coolest looking ones. But yeah, let's just kind of to get an overall look of what is a Stormcaller. I'm going to go ahead and read the Stormcaller Grimoire card, and this is actually one of my favorite quotes in Destiny. And I really want this on a shirt. I'm sure it exists somewhere. Harmony within, hurricane without. Meditate, focus, draw the static from within. The arc is inside all life. You must feel it, take hold, let it flow through, but not consume you. You are a conduit between sky and earth, electricity and matter, life and death. Oh, there's so many things about. But the quote, I'm sorry, and also, FYI, you are a weapon. So that's like, P.S., you're a weapon. Just a living weapon. No big deal. Don't sweat it. But, of all the subclasses that use electricity or arc energy, the Stormcaller is very much so the most organic of all of them. You feel like the Warlock is the conduit, just like it says. Is the lightning rod, and it's channeling that and frying people. Go ahead, Blue. I know you're dying. A little inside.
So the quote, I know, like you said, the quote, the harmony within, hurricane without. I really like that quote as well. And I swear that I've heard it somewhere else, but I could not for the life of me find where. But I did find, so the idea of a warrior and a storm, that's a very common metaphor, a parallel that's been drawn. So what often this leads to a very favorite one, another favorite quote of mine, which is from an individual named Haruki Murakami. And he says, "And once the storm is over, you won't remember how you made it through, how you managed to survive. You won't even be sure whether the storm is really over. But one thing is certain. When you come out of the storm, you won't be the same person who walked in. That's what this storm is all about." And I think that summarizes quite a bit. Also, the entire and the other thing about the Stormcaller that I absolutely love is that it as a Taken King subclass, we actually got a full subclass quest with it. And the subclass quest for the Stormcaller is, I will tip my hat to. That quest is amazing. So I promised Bife that I would play that.
After Bife's skull.
Hey, I promised him I would play it, and I managed to get my Warlock up to a point where I could play it. And yes, it is an amazing chat quest that Blue didn't do for like a month.
Yeah,
it took a village, okay, people? It took a village. But it was a very, very well put together quest. And I think that quote really does, to me, summarize the Stormcaller's, the catalyst, at least, for the Stormcaller. Because at the end of the quest, you basically, and it's called, I think the quest is called Bottle the Arc, which is, that's got its own fun little trivia nod as well. Is it Bottle the Ark or is it?
I think that's the correct one, but
Okay. But anyways, there's another really cool quote, and this one actually, this is kind of a mysterious quote because no one really can figure out who it came from, and depending on where you look, it actually is kind of like a nuanced differences. But the basic quote goes, "Fate whispers, you can't withstand the storm. The warrior responds, I am the storm." Again, to me, that is kind of like a very brief summary of what the Stormcaller kind of personifies. But do you want to talk about? I know Justin talking about electricity and talking about arc elements.
Yay!
I think that's kind of something that one of us has some actual real life experience.
Take it away, Blue.
Hey, you know what? My exposure to electricity, and Justin's going to know where I'm going with this. If you can't find the breaker, all you have to do is take the extension cord and kink it. It'll stop the electricity flow. You're good. You're safe.
Yeah, don't do that. I've had a long talk with Blue and Legal about this, and he needs to quit saying this on air. He needs to quit saying this. This goes against every federal and state regulation for electrical safety. And I can't stress this enough. If you think you are safe, you are not. Okay. Call a licensed electrician. This has been Justin.
I remember when I first sent you that picture, and you're like, "No, don't send that to anybody."
The Indiana Jones meme where he goes, "You are going to die." Or we are going to die. Yeah. No, please don't. Don't. I'll talk about it post-show if you want. There's a way where you could be right, but
I remember. I think that was actually your response. Was you're like, yeah, you could if you do. What was it like?
Yes.
You create a coil or something.
Yeah, you'd have to create a very significant coil. We'll get into that later. But yeah, before we moved on, I did want to call out some of the symbolism in the Stormcaller card, which I really like, and it's just something that hit me. Harmony within, hurricane without. That seems to me to be describing the dead calm of the eye of the storm.
Yes,
and there's a lot of reference within the Stormcaller subclass to the eye of the storm. And you are that. And when you talk about harmony within, the actual super of the Stormcaller subclass is called Storm Trance. So when you are activated in super, you are in a trance, which is, like the epitome or the personification of harmony. You are, just it's like a deep meditation. And we can get into mechanics later and things like that.
Mechanics.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like the mechanics of how actually make it work.
Yeah.
Not game mechanics. I know
you're on the wrong podcast if you want game mechanics.
No, we can talk about like the mechanics of how he actually, like what's the route that the electricity takes from the traveler to the Stormcaller to my dead body. Like,
can you channel? Oh, that's what we need. Can you channel me now?
Can you channel me now? Oh, that's awesome.
All right, so go. What's the electricity that you got for us?
Oh, the electricity on this? What you could think of the actual Stormcaller as, okay? And we'll link this in the show notes since I think it's entirely pertinent. I have a pretty good article on how lightning is formed and how it reaches up and strikes the ground. I mean, reaches down and strikes the ground. And then there's actually a return stroke from the ground back up to the sky. Because when you think of electricity, there's always a circuit. When we're dealing with, even sometimes with a static discharge like electricity, there's actually both ways. There's two-way traffic. But what you can think of the Warlock, the Stormcaller Warlock in this case, is as being somewhat of a lightning rod. if you work in an office building or any type of major structure, like I know Blue probably does, and Blue's building that he works in is probably has this to the nth degree, because where he works, with complex computer systems and servers and things like that, it's really critical to not have the systems inside be damaged from lightning strikes, which tall metal structures are wont to attract.
What? That's crazy talk.
Yeah. No. So what they'll actually do is they'll have lightning suppression systems, and they'll actually have air terminals on the building that are actually meant to attract the lightning. If that seems counterintuitive, I understand, but also to route it safely away from all the integral parts of the building's wiring system and to the ground where it can be discharged. So you can think of the Warlock here as the electrode or air terminal, or whatever you want to call it, who's actually attracting this landfall of this lightning strike, pun intended, and then channeling that and sending it where he wants to, i.e. out of his fingertips.
Across
Hence
the map.
Name Tickle Fingers. Not across the map. It's not that far. Although landfall should not kill you if you're in the air. I still say that's dumb. But yeah, I mean we can go round and round, but I do really, really love the thing that makes me think that Arc, and I've thought this for a while, the thing that makes me think that Arc and Destiny works like electricity in the real world is the statement, "You are a conduit," because there's no clear delineation of how our guardian uses light. Do you know what I mean? We are all pretty much in consensus that it's not something we create. You know what I mean? It's not something being generated in us that's been lying dormant. It's something we're channeling, rather. But the statement, "You are a conduit," that's what you are. A conduit or a conductor doesn't create anything. All it does is convey it from one point to another. And actually, there's a law that governs electricity. It's called Kirchhoff's law, and it actually states that the amount of current entering any node in an electrical system is equal to the amount of current leaving the same node. So everything that flows into the Warlock is actually leaving the Warlock. Sometimes there can be losses, like heat as a consequence of resistance, but for the most part, what enters leaves. So whatever we channel from the sky as a Stormcaller is actually what's coming out of our fingers. Blue, wake up, Blue.
I'm sorry. My eyes were glazed over.
Thoughts?
Yes, that sounds like great.
Kink in the wire.
Yeah, I'm testing out my theory on I'm still alive, so it obviously worked well in my opinion. No, and we've talked about the flow of light, and I still call it my Verizon theory, or your Verizon theory, as far as the reception of the routing and stuff. But I mean, I definitely agree, and I think I would argue also about your comment about Arc being similar to electricity. You can also see that in the Arc card as well. That's a
good point.
The basically the quote in the from Arc in Grimoire is, "A spark can give life or take it." That's true with electricity as well, because it just kink the wire, and that's not going to work really well. But it says the universe is defined by fundamental forces. Complex matter is bound together by deep forces, and in study of this binding lies the secret of arc light. So it's that kind of that connection, that spark that connects it. I read that and I think of the neurons in a brain, and how it has kind of electromagnetic force inside that as well that is jumping and, forming those neural pathways and stuff like that. That's kind of the connection that I think of when it talks about complex matter being bound together. I'm not sure if that's what was intended, but that's kind of how I read it. So, and Justin, I don't know if I think we've kind of talked about this before. But I want to say that is kind of where we were going with that. But real quick, also the other card that I would also like to bring in is obviously the Warlock card. And so the connection is obviously through the Warlocks to the Stormcallers. And just real quick, Warlock card says, we have found new ways to weaponize curiosity, pathways into darkness. Warrior scholars of the light, Warlocks devote themselves to understanding the Traveler and its power. A Warlock's mind is an arsenal of deadly secrets balanced between godhood and madness. On the battlefield, these secrets can shatter reality itself. So that is a connection, that's overarching class, and then obviously we go into the subclass, which we've been talking about. Really quick, I did want to run through the Bottle the Ark quest. Basically what happens is you get this quest, and there's actually some really cool little pieces in here that I think we're going to talk about later as well. But the predominant thing is we hear of Vex of Mars that are seeking out arc energy storms that are racing around the planet. And so basically what it's presenting is that Mars is having these flash thunderstorms basically that are going around, and you actually kind of you actually learn a little bit about Mars, and I think it's relic iron and the relic crystals throughout this quest as well. But anyway, so basically Ikora goes and says, okay, hey, the Vex are seeking out these arc energies. They're trying to kind of like harness this energy. Go ahead and find a storm and meditate and observe the lightning's flow and master it. Which, that's not ominous at all, or kind of dubious about how we were supposed to be sent into find the silver lining of the thundercloud. God, that just reminds me of the Demotivator. Have you seen that Demotivator poster? Every cloud has a silver lining. Every cloud has a silver lining, but lightning kills hundreds each year who are searching for it.
Nice.
But and so that's Bottle the Ark, which is the first kind of mission or quest step mission. I don't really know what you would call it, but it's a quest step. Let's just go with that. Bottle the Ark, and then you get like the Stormcaller, which is again harmony within, hurricane without. And then the next step is a living storm. And I believe this is the right order. I think it is. If I'm wrong, just let me know. I'm sure you guys will. The living storm, you get another quote from Ikora that says, the unbridled fury of the storm trance contrasts with the control that the Stormcaller exercises as she pulls down the sky. So something really, in my opinion, really cool here. And this again goes back to the quote, harmony within, hurricane without. It's the destruction that everyone remembers from a Stormcaller. But what people don't realize is that in order to channel that, in Justin, you kind of talked about this a little bit as well, but I mean, think about this as you are literally channeling this destructive force through your body. And in order to do that, it's like you don't want to get carried away in the current, because and I'm talking about the water current, but you can also view it as a current of electricity. And so in order to not be carried away by the current, you have to ground yourself. And I'm realizing as I'm talking that this is actually applicable to electricity. I am not talking in electricity, but you have to ground yourself. You have to anchor yourself so that you will not get carried away by this current. And so in order to do that, from a psychological standpoint, you have to understand what you're doing, and you have to meditate on that. That kind of goes back to the entire concept of the warrior scholar, of a almost like a samurai or a Buddhist Zen type figure, a person who is absolutely in control, but at the same time is dealing out massive amounts of damage. And into the uneducated eye, is actually creating chaos, but it's an organized chaos. It's a very organized chaos. And that's kind of what you hear right here, is that the unbridled fury of the Storm Trance contrasts with the control. So again, harmony within, but a hurricane without. And then we go to, and Justin, please just give me a shout if you want to jump in on any of this. Then we go into, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, just real quick before you move on. I kind of have a little bit of a theory as to how the storm manages to control the flow without being carried away with it, or burn up and spent, as most electrodes would be that are conducting that much current, because it's clearly a large amount of current, because it will jump 30 feet to kill you. So I mean, the higher the potential, the larger the air gap it can span. So you can only imagine that a current of thousands of volts is what it takes to jump 30 feet and kill someone across the map, as Blue put it. But I don't know if you're familiar, Blue, with the concept of a Faraday cage.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So basically, and there's some pretty cool videos out there if you want to look them up, of some experiments people have done with Tesla coils. And basically they've used these coils to generate very high potentials of electricity. And then they'll place ballistics dummies on top of a metal plate that's grounded at the bottom of the, underneath the Tesla coil. And they'll put these ballistics dummies that are filled with fluid, and they're simulating human body, basically. And they'll put different types of clothes on them all. Like one guy will have street clothes on. One will have like a wetsuit on. One will have, like a rubber suit on. And they'll have a bunch of different types of clothes. And then eventually there'll be one with a medieval suit of armor.
Obviously, the best suit to wear in electric fields.
Well, you're not wrong, Blue. You're not wrong, because when they turn the Tesla coil on, it will start much like you see lightning strike the ground. There will be a reaching electrical arc that will go to the head of each dummy. It's pretty crazy to see. I'll see if I can link a video. And it after a little bit, they start popping. And first the guy in street clothes pops. And then like the one in, like rubber suit pops. And then, it just keeps going one after the other. And then who's the last man standing?
The Tin Man.
Yes, the Tin Man. In
really?
The suit of, yeah. You want to know why?
Is it because he's grounded? It's just more dispersed?
It's not because it's not because he's grounded. They're all grounded because they're all standing on the same metal plate. The reason why is because just if you go through the laws of electricity, the majority of an electrical current will take the lowest impedance path available to it. Some will go on the higher impedance paths, and it'll work out if you do the math. A little bit will go this way, a little bit will go that way, but the majority of it will take the path of least resistance. Now, through all the other dummies, the path of least resistance was straight through the body, which eventually at a high enough potential caused them to explode. So what the guy in armor did was he gave the electrical current a very, very low resistance path on the outside of him, in a shell around him. And essentially, he's standing in a Faraday cage at this point. Basically, you're at the same potential as the cage, and the current is allowed to go around you as opposed to through you. I think this is how that the Stormcaller, through intense meditation, is able to align the electrons of his own atoms to make the outside of him the path of least resistance. And he's not channeling this through his core. He's actually made himself into a floating Faraday cage. That's my
or here's my expert counter argument. Space magic.
Space magic too, but it kind of makes
he just really wants to be Palpatine.
Listen. Have you ever played Trials and had a Stormcaller super?
You can just stop right there. Nope.
A Stormcaller super good to go at the last round after everyone's dead, and you just pop it out of spite. Basically, if you're sitting there dancing as a Stormcaller, which I don't do that often, but if you're sitting there dancing as a Stormcaller, basically you'll see these like searching little arcs of electricity all around your body. And I don't know. I could be completely wrong.
I always thought of them as like, what are the little globes that you can put your hands on and the different colored lights spark out? What are those?
Yeah.
The little electric globes. I can't remember. You know what I'm talking. Everyone knows what I'm talking about, right? Like the clear globes that you put your hands on and you feel like you're a Sith Lord. They're amazing. Yeah. Except for when you accidentally touch your son with when you're touching that and there's a giant spark. Your 4-year-old does not appreciate that. Just pro tip on that one. That happened last weekend. He was not happy with me for about 30 minutes. But I guess my question that immediately kind of going back to the genius individual who thought, hey, I'm going to wear a giant suit of steel in an electric storm. Do they know when you create the Faraday cage around you, right? Are you able to survive within that suit? Like, would you actually be able to survive, or would that actually electrocute the individual within because the suit is being...
If the suit was actually conductive enough, you would be fine. The dummy, when they pull it out, has no burns, has no entry, because when lightning strikes you or a current flows through you at that potential, it will actually have an entry and an exit that is a discernible wound. And in some cases, it'll blow out on the exit. There's been tales of people getting electrocuted who their heels have blown out of their boots because such was the force. Because when you think about electrical current, we always think about it very abstractly, but it is the flow of electrons. So that flow has inertia the same way all matter can have inertia. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So that's force. The flow of electrical current can exhibit extreme force. So would I espouse any of you putting on a suit of...
I have one.
No.
I have one. I can go try it out. Okay.
No, I wouldn't.
This is up there. This is up there with the kinking of the electric wire idea.
And the reason why I say that is because the amount of current that it takes to power the light bulb in your closet at your house, the small amount of current it takes to do that could stop your heart. So you would have to have a very sophisticated Faraday cage suit because you got to remember all of your heart and your nervous system, all of that's electrical. So you do not want to screw with that. So please don't put on a suit of armor and say Justin Sane told you to do it. But as far as keeping the body intact, the armor guy was best off. There was something to bury if he got...
Hiko in chat, kink the electric wire in the steel armor.
Oh, no.
Oh, no, 2 negatives.
Double negative is not a positive. Not a positive.
All right.
No, Blue, continue on with your subclass.
Okay.
Subclass quests.
Okay, so now we're going to go to Conjuring Thunder, which gives us another quote, and this quote is, a hallmark of Stormcaller technique is the ability to project and redirect arc energy. They can always find one more bolt of lightning to throw. So I think that one is pretty straightforward. We kind of talked about the coursing of that channel. And then we have a talk to Ikora moment. Those are always fun. And this one says, a Stormcaller's lightning awaits release. So release it on the darkness. Show the universe how your light can burn down armies. all I can think of on that one is the classical scene where like the lightning like chains people together. You know, everyone loves that one. So that's kind of how I picture that. I don't know how accurate that is, but that's the headcanon that I have created. And then we get Call Lightning, which is another quote that says, "The Stormcaller commands arc lightning as if the sky becomes wholly theirs for a finite time." So again, hurricane, you know, the control, it's very, very prevalent here. So this is kind of what the Stormcaller is. And that was a big part of the chat this past week, was what is a Stormcaller? You know, why is this Stormcaller, or why is this particular subclass kind of different from the other subclasses that deal with arc energy? And so that actually it brought up a really good conversation about the differences of the manifestation styles of arc energy within the Guardian ranks. So obviously, with the Taken King, we had the presentation of subclasses which evened out everyone within the element. So every single class now has a subclass, or well, currently has a subclass for each element of light. Stormcaller being arc. The other subclasses that deal with arc energy are the Blade Dancer, and then the Fist of Panic, the Striker Titans, which we'll be talking about next week. But and we will talk about this again next week as well, because the differences between these arc classes it's pretty interesting. The manifestation style of the arc subclasses really can, I think, be kind of defined in a pretty simple way. Titans in Destiny 1, Titans are generally a single burst of absolute destruction. It's a fist of havoc. That's what it is. Now, granted, this is changing a little bit in Destiny 2. We'll talk about that next week. Hunters tend to present the manifestation of arc energy in an augmentation of their actual body and their weapons. So they are actually imbuing themselves with this arc energy. And which is kind of interesting, because it's almost, you know, listening to what Justin was just saying, it's almost the opposite of what the Stormcaller is doing. They are actually imbibing, I guess, the energy and manifesting it in an augmentation of themselves. That's what the Blade Dancer kind of presents it. Again, the strike, or the Arc Strider, presents a slightly different presentation and or manifestation of the energy, though it is very similar. It's a more direct, more aggressive presentation of that manifestation. And then you have the Stormcaller, who is literally channeling this direct energy. They are taking this energy in and they are channeling it directly out. Justin just did an amazing description of but they're not really bringing it into themselves. They're putting it into around them as a suit of armor, really, of electricity maybe, and then dispersing it from that. And so each one of these has within and of itself the obviously different nodes of, different form of psychological approach or paradigm. We talked about that a little bit. We talked about that a little bit in the other subclass episodes, but it's got a different paradigm for each class, which is, again, going back to the general classes. That makes sense. You have, the Titans are very, very defensive or very, very head on. That's what they are. A Warlock is seeking to understand and to explore and to safely navigate the unknown. And the Hunter is really just kind of a survivalist. That is really what they do. And so within that, we actually have a couple of quests that we hear from, and these quotes are actually from Ikora, but it is a talk to Zavala step. And Ikora goes and says, a Stormcaller's focus is control of Arclight and gradual and persistent guidance of the lightning. The Striker is only concerned with the burst, the arc impact for maximum disruption and destruction. Zavala and I could argue the advantages of both, but the Crucible speaks for us. take that as you will. But that presents the Stormcaller's control and the Striker's, it's not that it's not control. It's just the Stormcaller is calm. The Stormcaller is very zen in the way that they control the hurricane of the arc energy, whereas a Striker, I kind of think of a Striker in the guise of Wei Ning, who is on record saying, she can't form the Ward of Dawn because it takes too much concentration. She just lets it build up and overflow and burst, and it's just this emotional catalyst, or it's emotional catharsis basically for a Striker. They get this welling up of power, and they just have to let it out. And whereas a Stormcaller is kind of the opposite of this. And then we hear from Blade Dancers, and Zavala actually is saying this, and he says Blade Dancers lack the Striker's strength, but even a Striker must admit the Blade Dancers move at a velocity Strikers can only hope to match. So again, you have the augmentation, the enhancement of themselves. Justin, do you have anything to add in on that one?
Just basically when you're talking about the difference between the other two arc subclasses and the Stormcaller. The Stormcaller, at least to me, in the nature of the super and also the aesthetic of the super, seems to be the only one out of the three that is legitimately in real time channeling arc energy. In real time, meaning, like I said with Kirchhoff's law, when you say that what's entering is what's leaving, they're the same. That's the Stormcaller for me. The other two feel a lot more like a stored charge that's being discharged, especially the Striker Titan. We can get into this next week when we talk Striker Titans, but the Striker Titan, and it's called the Fist of Panic for a reason, folks. It's a snap decision. You know what I mean? And it very much does feel like the discharge of a capacitor, something that stored a charge and is now discharging it. If you want to go on a less violent scale, if you rub your feet on the carpet for a really long time and touch a metal doorknob, that's
or a 4-year-old. Yeah. They also do not appreciate that, by the way. Another pro tip. Or your wife. Yeah, that
or your wife's forehead, and then yell unlimited power. So no, but the very nature of them mechanic wise, and again, I'm not talking game mechanics. I'm talking mechanics of how they seem to function. It's just the nature of them is different. And there was a kind of style choice with the Taken King subclasses, where the three subclasses we got in Taken King did feel very primal, and they did feel very back to basics. I mean, whereas before with the Hunter, we had Gunslinger that was, a gun, obviously. And then we had Blade Dancer, which was knives, which is not very, technologically advanced, but Blade Dancer is a very, it's a very savvy and tactical type subclass. And then we got a bow and arrow. So, which also can be very tactical in and of itself, but the way they build it with the subclass quest, it was very much like, getting back to the feral wilderness, side of the Hunter. And with the Sunbreaker, the same thing. There was this ancient civilization of Titans that, had perfected this, the subclass out of a forge. And the same thing with the Stormcaller, harnessing the powers of nature. It's just all very primal with these subclasses. So I definitely think that this arc subclass stands out for me as the one that is most unique, other than the fact that the Hunter can go invisible, which I still haven't reconciled. but we'll.
Well, it's obvious. It's obviously because we stole the stealth technology from Rasputin.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
According to the ever honest Cade.
Not we.
Well, he.
He don't share. He don't share. Yeah.
So I'm trying to think. Do you want to talk about? I think the next really big kind of conversation that was in chat was really who are Stormcallers, right?
That was a big disappointment for me, by the way, when I finally got around to doing the subclass quest for. I mean, even the Titan, even the Sunbreaker Titan had Uros. It was just not a character.
Stormcaller was go out and get struck by lightning. Now you're a Stormcaller.
Yeah, get on the roof. Get on the roof.
That's a golf clap. Like golf clap is like, I mean, which was actually in and of itself a small conversation in the chat, because it was like, how do you become a Stormcaller? Well, you go and stand in a field and you get struck by lightning. If you live, there you go. And it was like, that seems like a steep learning curve there.
Was I the only one who wanted Bill Paxton to come out and say cow?
It's over, man. Game over.
Same cow just went by. There's a Vex cow.
It's a Vex
cow. Yeah. I thought.
Game over, man.
Game over. It's a bug hunt, man. Yeah, I think that was the one folly of the Stormcaller subclass quest, which really you could find very little with as far as being a fun part of a video game. there was not a lot of room for criticism there, but no. I was kind of disappointed that they didn't entrench a notable Stormcaller at the head of the subclass. That kind of, yeah.
Well, chat just took it a step further. That's where Vex milk comes from. Vex cows.
Vex cows. Bill Paxton spotted them.
We gotta go. We've got cows.
I gotta go. We've got cows.
So, yeah. I'm trying to remember. I know. Oh, yes. There was another thing I did want to kind of talk about. There was a quote. I'm trying to remember which one it was. And I think it was during the quest for the Stormcaller. I apologize. Let me see if I had it. I know it's Stormcaller's Path. And actually one of the dispatches is going to talk about this as well, but I did want to actually bring this up. It's a quote from Ikora, and she says, "Yours will be a difficult path, jagged like lightning itself. It is only the few who have the power to call down the storm. I have not often seen this talent from one so young. I always knew you were different from the others, but I never understood my unease. I'm afraid there is little left I can teach you." So, yeah. So now there's that little tidbit out there where Ikora is actually uneasy about our guardian, or at least the guardians who are warlocks. She is uneasy, and there's a lot of conversation about, like, you know, what is causing this unease. And this is the dispatch, and so I'm going to kind of segue that into Justin. Do you have anything else, or do you want to jump into the dispatches?
No, I think go right ahead.
All right, let's run to dispatches, and this is actually the first dispatch that I'll read as soon as we get through this.
Dispatches from the wilds.
All right, so this dispatch actually comes directly from Pins Halo, who is our favorite tech support individual.
He's the GOAT.
So Pins right says, in the storm, and this kind of leads into the conversation that I was just having. So in the Stormcaller's path, Ikora says, the quote, and then the comment about not understanding her unease. Do you think this has any ties to the shadows of yore? In the cards regarding the shadows, Ikora seems a bit dismissive when Shin mentions his concerns about the shadows. While the Vanguard said they were monitoring the situation, they did not seem to think there was an immediacy to the potential problem. If the shadows turned out as bad as Shin thought they could, would that be a reason for Ikora to weigh any concerns more, seeing she may have missed something earlier? Thanks for all you do, hanging out and listening to all you, whether in-game stream, extra, or podcast is one of the highlights of my week. I set my watch and warrant on it. Pins. So first off, giant kudo points for Dark Tower, and second, I actually saw a completely different connection. I think the reason why I don't think it's shadows is because the last we know of the shadows, they haven't actually caused significant problems yet. It seems like they are in the process of about to cause significant problems. But and this is all from the Age of Triumph cards. They haven't quite yet started causing issues. Whereas Ikora seems to be uneasy, not because of anything necessarily that we inherently are doing, but because instead of the potential that we represent. Because remember, Ikora was pretty much the understudy of Osiris when Osiris was the Vanguard commander. Osiris is arguably one of the more powerful guardians to date. She was also a contemporary of another very powerful guardian warlock, Toland. Well, what's the common thread between those two individuals? They were both extremely powerful, and they both kind of got obsessed in their own way with furthering their power. And it became this kind of thing, and you can argue this for Osiris, and you definitely argue this with Toland, that they got so concerned with growing the power that they forgot what it was to be a guardian. And they forgot about protecting the others around them that might not have the ability to defend themselves like a guardian does. And so when you see that progression of power, not just one person, but in two people who grew probably pretty fairly quickly. I mean, just think of the path of Osiris. He kind of went from a nobody to being Vanguard commander very quickly. And that was it's kind of a jump. I mean, he basically, we don't know anything of him from the Grimoire. We know nothing of Osiris. And then all of a sudden there's the Battle of Six Fronts, and Saint 14's like his best buddy, and now he's Vanguard commander. And then very, arguably, we don't really know the time difference there, but he kind of went, he went very high, and then kind of, we don't know really what happened, but he pissed off the speaker, or the speaker pissed him off, and he left. So you saw that arc, and then you, on the other side, see Toland's arc, who is kind of doing not really the opposite, but kind of. He's a very powerful warlock who is obsessed with research and obsessed with all these different types of power and these alternative forms of manifestation of light, and obsessed with the hive. And he kind of descends into this dark world, and then literally descends into the Hellmouth, and we all know where that goes. So, bad. And that, yeah, it's bad. So, but you have these two individuals who both had extremely potent abilities, and then you have our Guardian, who, I mean, to be clear, our Guardian is only in game only like 3 years old. I mean, think about that. We have fully mastered all 3 subclasses in the time of a blink of an eye for some of these Guardians. And so when you put that in perspective, not only are you a Guardian who is a superhuman, basically you're like a superhero in general, you're now in the top echelon of those guardians. You have mastered these classes. You have mastered these subclasses extremely quickly. And the problem is that Ikora not only sees that very rapid growth as a problem, because the other thing that you have to remember too is that if you grow too fast, you don't appreciate what you're gaining. And I mean that in the sense that you take for granted that is always going to be there. And I'm trying really hard not to go down a socio-political conversation with that. But it's like when, as a parent, right? As a parent, there are times where you have to step back and let your child struggle with something. Because it's not, the end result is not the lesson. The struggle is. The struggle to get that thing is the lesson. You have to work to earn things. And so if you don't work to earn things, then the thing that you earn can arguably be of less value and not be as much of importance to that individual. I think that's where Ikora's concern is stemming from. Yes, pins in chat. That which we obtain too easily, we esteem too lightly.
Starship Troopers.
Starship Troopers.
Starship Troopers. I just got through reading the part of that book where they're having the discussion in morals and philosophy of whether or not value is relative or absolute. Oh, so many of my political views, socio-political views, are formed based on Heinlein. You're welcome, world.
Well, I mean, so what are your thoughts on Ikora's concern? Like, I mean, where do you see that kind of stemming from?
Well, I mean, it's a valid concern because we're seeing it now in our society, present day with the participation medal that's being, I mean, I have a lot of trophies from when I was a kid. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Right. I've got a lot because I played a lot of sports, and I don't have a lot because I was an accomplished athlete and I was an Olympic level athlete. I have a lot because I was there. And I generally,
because you showed up.
I generally didn't drool on my shoes. You know what I mean? So, but some of the ones that I hold most dearly were the most hard fought that it was to get. Like, we came in third in a challenge tournament to move up to a more prestigious league when I played soccer when I was, like maybe 13 or 14, and we placed third in the tournament, which was enough to put us over the threshold for wins in tournaments. To give us the cred we need to move up into a better league. I hold that third place trophy in higher regard than I hold, a bunch of my first place stuff or a bunch of the other stuff that was just easy. So I do get her point that, and someone put it in chat. And it's exactly right. And I think it was Pens, that which we, I can't, I'm just going to mess up the quote. So I'm just going to scroll up. That which we obtain too easily, we esteem too lightly. And it's exactly the, the thing is that if things do come really easy to you, your first brush with adversity will be a very rough patch in your life. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So I agree with Ikora, I think. And for the most part, I mean, things have come a little easy to us, Right. I mean, it's not been that much tough sledding. I mean, we did have to deal with Skolas for like 3 months, but I mean,
I love how that's the one that you go with.
That's the hardship.
We took out a god, but that was whatever. But God,
that's
that prison,
okay.
There was no checkpoints.
Yeah, that's I remember Fraggle.
The overnight slumber party.
Duct taping his controller to his cat to see if that would keep him character moving around enough to stay in prison. I don't think he really did that, but he did try to rig his controller to where his character would move just enough to stay in the prison because we were at Skolas, and that took some doing.
Oh man,
especially if you were under light. So yeah, and I just, next morning I had a message when I woke up that said didn't work. I mean, it is a point. It is a point.
Well, and that actually kind of leads to the next one. And this is from Archangel 083. And he says, when we got our third subclasses, why do you think we lose them or were needed to be taught them after a while? And why do you think Arc was the last subclass? And just for fun, why do you hate the Warlock? Me, I don't like the jump. So, well, let's get the one that's going to get me in trouble out first. I'm not a fan of the floofing jump. I'm 100% agreed. I don't like the jump. That's my main concern is actually mechanics.
The jump is the turnoff for the Warlock. But once you realize...
It's not a jump, okay? Let's just all be clear. It's you're slowing the fall.
There's only one character type
that has
one class in Destiny that has a jump.
That's the
other two. One of them, you're the Rocketeer, and then the other one, I don't even know what to call you. You're Doctor Strange, pretty much. You just kind of floof. There's no other words for it. But once you can get over that, the melee and the grenade are well worth the floof. And this is a career hunter saying this. I once I realized just how far away I could be and kill someone with a melee, I was like, oh, this is obnoxious.
I got to do this more.
All of you are awful people. Yeah.
So going back to the serious questions on this one. I've got a thought on this. Okay, yeah, because I'm struggling with the answer other than game mechanics.
Well, game mechanics would be the driving force.
Yeah, I mean that's really
introduced. Game mechanics are the driving force behind why they were introduced.
Right.
Secondarily, but
right.
But there is a precedent for this in history. Ways of doing things, primitive ways of doing things, are lost to time all the time in human history. So, I mean, there are they're still uncovering things the ancient Egyptians did that are relevant today that actually still work. So it's not that far-fetched when you actually think of the timeline of Destiny from collapse to City Age as being, hundreds of years. It's not unreasonable to think that there might have been some light techniques from the early days of the collapse that were kind of lost to time and only practiced by a select few. I mean, that's not like completely unreasonable. I mean, is it a way to explain a game mechanic away? Yes, it is. Is it unreasonable? No, it's not really, in my opinion.
Yeah, I guess my only hesitation to agreeing with that is and it kind of goes back to the conversation about who are the Stormcallers. It's like the other two subclasses really, they weren't lost. Like with the Night Stalker, it was presented as it wasn't so much that it was lost as that it was a very dubious process. Like it required you to be kind of borderline questionable on some of your moral standings in order to access that, and that was a very difficult thing. You had to be very bluntly honest with yourself, from a persona type standpoint to be a Night Stalker. And then with the Sunbreakers, Sunbreaker, I mean, they literally got kicked off Earth, pretty much. Like they got sent away. And so they were still there, Sunbreaker, and it wasn't that they were gone necessarily. It was, I don't know, like, I mean, the mostly it's the Night Stalker that gives me hesitation to say that it was a forgotten art, because
really?
Night Stalker,
that's the one that kind of feels the most like it.
Night Stalkers were the scouts that they all used. I mean,
yeah,
Tevis was a very well-known scout, and Cade mentions other Night Stalker scouts that they're using to go scout out the Dreadnought and stuff like that.
That's a very lonely, solitary.
Well, no. I know, but what I'm saying is that's actually my point. Is that's why it was so singular. Because remember, Tevis was the trainer for a lot of hunters. And so, but he was also kind of the person that kind of didn't, he didn't really banter words. He kind of told it how he saw it. And Tevis always kind of presented the Night Stalker as this need to be very, very self-aware of your own weaknesses and of your own self. I mean, because that's what one of the quotes about the Night Stalker is. Ask. What is it? It's ask the hunter what they think of the void or something, and the answer's in their eyes. Like, he kind of he points out the fact that you have to be in control of everything before you even try to punch through to grab the void to form the dusk bow. That being said, I mean, I don't know. The Taken King subclasses are definitely presented as a more primal classes. I just hesitate to say that they were lost.
I'm not saying that they were lost completely. I'm just saying they're just the Night Stalker lifestyle,
right?
That Night Stalker life is not an attractive proposition. If I'm trying to convince you, and you're a baby guardian in the tower, and I'm trying to convince you of which route to take, you probably wouldn't say, oh yeah, months alone on the frontier, all by, having to hunt for my food and all these other things. I know that they're not the only hunter subclass that does that stuff.
Right.
That personifies them, that solitary existence. And also, to draw that dusk bow takes so much concentration. That's not a hallmark of the hunter class. So it's actually a subclass that runs counter to the personality type of the class. So it's not going to be a favorite. It's not going to be one that's going to attract droves of kindergartens to it. If we're talking, like not gameplay mechanics, we're talking, game lore. It's not gonna be a very attractive one, I guess is my point. So I'm not saying it was lost completely. I'm just saying it wasn't the most popular option for new guardians. And through that unpopularity and through that, the stressors of that life of being Tevis and being a Night Stalker, it wasn't a highly practiced thing. Otherwise, we would have heard about it a lot.
Right. Yeah, and I guess that's true. As far as Arc was the last subclass,
I've got thoughts there too.
Okay, go for it, because that one is, to me, that one is completely. It was we had the other two elements, and they needed to round out the elements. Like, I'm sorry that I don't see a reason for it.
I actually think that was actually deliberate, and I don't think it was that we're going to make Arc the last subclass. I think it was actually the inverse of that.
Okay, I can see where you're saying. Yeah,
I think that Bungie actually, when they were billing the hunter subclass, I think the gunslinger mentality and the gunslinger aesthetic is what they really wanted to personify. And that's kind of evidenced in the fact that in all the promotional materials, in the commercials, everything, hunters always used a hand cannon. Because they were the Wild Wild West, gunslinger, the Jaren Ward type character, who was a gunslinger. And for that reason, your first subclass, gunslinger, because I think Bungie, you know how a game developer, a good game developer, won't dictate how you play their game. They will nudge you in the direction that they want you to go. I think that was a nudge from Bungie. Hey, this is a hunter. This subclass personifies hunter. Master it, then you can move on. The same thing with the warlock. I think they felt the void walker. I feel like the void itself personifies a warlock. So the void walker warlock is the typical warlock for me. And maybe that's my just kind of, bias towards warlocks there. And then when we go to the Titan, very early on in Destiny lore, we have images and depictions of Titans building a wall. And then you have a defender Titan who can actually wall off or defend your whole fire team with a bubble. So I just feel like that those subclasses best personified the classes for D1 vanilla in Bungie's mind, and that's why they led with them. Not that they wanted to put Arc in the back seat. Am I completely off base here?
No. I think, I mean, like, it's hard for me to say. I don't know. I always hesitate to say, yeah, this subclass was the first subclass.
Now that also is granted to say that at the time of D1 launch, there was no Arc Warlock subclass. So that one doesn't go into this conversation. But I think it was much more a case of these other ones are the ones we want to lead off with on the front foot, because they are the typical. Because I think very much, I mean, when you look at Destiny lore, the gunslinger is like the generic typical hunter to me. Throwing knives and golden guns to me. I mean, that's just my experience. Not in who I face in Crucible, but like when I think hunter, that's what I think. Mm-hmm. The defender, the bubble bro, is for me the epitomization of a Titan.
Titan, yeah, I agree.
Titan, yeah, and the Void Walker staring into the void, is the the epitome of the warlock for me. So all the others are just variants of the same class to me. But that's complete conjecture. And I've rambled long enough. Go ahead, Blue.
No, I'm sorry. We're talking in chat right now about the hunter's view of void. I really do struggle with I don't think that any of the subclasses came first. I'll be completely honest. I think that it was kind of a natural manifestation. There was a Reddit post that actually kind of talked about that, and I can't remember who it was, but it made the argument that different individual guardians would have a different aptitude for different elements. So basically, like, as a new guardian or as a new warlock, there was a chance that you might be more apt to being an arc warlock, that you might be a stormcaller, that you would understand and kind of feel more drawn towards that particular thing. And again, that kind of makes sense to me, because my view of what a class is and what the subclasses are extensions of our psychological response to the world, our paradigm, basically. That goes back into the view of the classes. Again, Titans, Hunters, Warlocks. Those are kind of the base paradigm. I view the addition of subclasses as a psychological broadening of the mind, if you would. You can't change the base paradigm, right? Which is why in the game world, you can't jump from warlock to hunter. You can't, right now. We are too lockstepped into that paradigm to be able to transcend that particular block. However, just as in real life, you can change small things about yourself, and you can change small things about the way that you view the world. You can change those small things, and those small changes reflect in a different manifestation of light and a different aptitude with a different element. A person could change the way that they view the connections of things, and that thus lets them understand void energy in a better way, or they understand the transcendence of the radiance. They understand transcendence of radiance, and they kind of, that connects to them. There's a very psychological view that underlies the manifestation of our powers that are the light. And I just see that as kind of being inherently within unique to each guardian. And Justin, I know you had something there.
Oh, yeah. I just wanted to, that's a very good way of putting it. I just wanted to clarify real quick, just so I don't get flamed everywhere. I was not trying to say that in game world, one came before the other.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, and the reason I was responding a little bit strongly to that is that that's a very common question.
Yes,
and it's a valid question. It's a valid question. I was making no points about that whatsoever. What I was trying to say is why Bungie made you play one before the other. Right, which I think that is, I mean, I don't think you can answer that without breaking a fourth wall.
Yeah, and I was just speaking to the intentions of game developers whom I don't know for the most part. So I mean, we can all take that with a pinch of salt. But no, I wasn't trying to say that Gunslinger came before Blade Dancer came before.
No, they have you quoted in chat now. They have quoted one came before the other.
There was no chicken. There was no egg. No. All I was trying to say was I think there was a very calculated reason why when we turned on Destiny for the first time and we picked a hunter, we were a gunslinger. Right. That's all I was saying.
Yeah. Well, do you want to read the wonderful submission from Mr. Potato?
Yes, I would love
I just realized that we can call him Mr. Potato.
Mr. Potato. This is actually kind of a short one for if you guys are wondering who is Mr. Potato, he is an amazing individual. He was actually on our last episode. Is that correct?
Yeah.
About the Defender Titan.
No, he was on Horizon Zero Dawn.
Oh, he was on Horizon Zero.
The game that we don't play.
Horizon Zero Donald should know that. He was on Horizon Zero Dawn, but a tremendous member of our community, taught us all about this lovely game that we don't play. But he writes him among others, writes these amazing little write-ups about subclasses and such. And I will read one now called The Approaching Storm. I don't have cool music like Green when she does these. So, The Approaching Storm. See the flash. Hear the thunder. Count the seconds. 1, 2, 3. Mother Nature displays of power. Channeled through a focused will. 1, 2, 3. Foes atomized into dust, a whirlwind of arc light rolling across the land just as the thunder rumbles across the sky. 1, 2. I am the fury of the storm brought to bear. 1. Run. Pew. Oh. Potato 2, I see you in chat. If you ever want me to do some voice work for these on you, I'm sorry. Let's rephrase. Stop that. Flip it. Reverse it. If you ever want me to do some voice work for you on these, holler at me.
The sound effects are strong with this one. Oh, and then we actually have another one, and this one came through to us from I think it's JSuff84 from
Rainbow Jet Squad.
I was hoping you would jump in on that one.
Rainbow Jet Squad alumnus.
All right, so this one says, I see you, thirsting for knowledge, ever seeking cosmic wisdom. The arcane subtleties from within, squalls surround the tempest of thought. Arcs of lightning course through your veins. Enemies shudder at the sound of your thunder. Darkness fleeing the wrath of your storm trance. They cannot face your righteous torment. You break the will of evil. I know your name. You are renowned. You are Stormcaller. And then what was the sound effect? Pew! Pew!
It's the skyrockets in flight sound.
So yeah, we really appreciate. I love getting those, and I'm a little back. I'm a little behind on getting those put into images, but I'm going to try to get those done as soon as I possibly can and get those up over on the Facebook community gallery. So definitely keep bugging me to get those up there. I do plan on getting them.
We also forgot to mention the class exclusive gun.
Oh, the Aztec thingy bopper?
Yeah, I honestly, I don't care if we talk. I just want to hear you.
Talalak?
Okay, I'm done. Yeah, but actually, that's the Warlock Scout Rifle, right?
Yeah, that's the one that I'm bitter about because they got a Scout Rifle.
But funny note about that, Tlaloc is actually the Aztec god of rain.
Mm-hmm. He makes it rain.
Mm-hmm. He makes it rain. And not just in the strip club. Sorry, did I say something I shouldn't have?
Uni's not. Uni's.
I think that's a cue, boys.
That's a cue. Okay, we're done. Shout outs.
Yeah, so shout outs. Yeah. So big shout outs. From me, first, I would like to give a great big shout out to Lady Desiree. She told me not to call her that anymore because everyone mispronounces her name when they see it. It's a reading glitch in human minds. They see Desiree and they see that word. So, oh my God, no Facebook adventures from me. But yeah, big shout out to Lady Desiree. Blue's going to link her in show notes and all her. If you love Destiny music, which how could you not? The only video game music that surpasses Destiny music is, what is it, Blue?
Halo
music. That's the only one. No others. All your other ones are false. So,
all your other ones are false.
But she actually does some of that too. So check her out on her YouTube. She plays beautiful piano music. Mm-hmm. And big shout out to Infested Potato. For, kind of walking us through Horizon Zero Dawn. I think the only extra lore we've done, Blue, where I have needed more help was probably...
I'm waiting for it.
It was probably D&D. Am I wrong?
D&D or Elder Scrolls?
Elder Scrolls, no. It was, what's the one... Not Elder Scrolls. The other one was swordplay and a lot of stuff.
Dark Souls.
Oh, no. Dark Souls.
I think we did pretty fair on that one, actually.
That's probably the roughest extra lore because it was just me and Blue. We two-manned it just like tonight, and neither one of us had a clue. Basically, My knowledge of Dark Souls was limited to the Mimic. So. And
the Paladin Leroy.
I forgot about that. Leroy! So, yeah. Basically, thank you to everyone. Actually, just take this little quick time to give a special thank you to everyone who comes on air and helps us with these extra lore, episodes, because it's impossible for someone to have played all these games. I mean, there's apparently people who have, but they're not me. So, I can count more times I've been on an extra lore episode where I knew nothing about a game than the ones where I knew something about one of these games. So, if you're wondering, go listen to the Pokemon episode. So
don't go listen to the Pokemon.
All the people who come on and help us out and just really get us over the line with these things in a way that presents some information that someone might want. I really have nothing but thanks for you guys. And other than that, I know I'm forgetting someone.
I think you're part of a clan, aren't you?
Yeah, DOD Shadow White crew, getting ready for D2, trying to get that raid group together. My cool-headed leader, Mountain Fraggles, he's so yeah.
You're cool-headed. Fraggle Rage, trademark.
Fraggle Rage, trademarked.
Oh,
yeah,
man.
But also just thank you guys in live chat and keep doing what you do. Oh, since Green isn't here, I do want to shout out one thing. In the FFC book club, we are still rolling on. Blue, what's the name of the book?
I'm trying to remember. I think I had something, and I can't remember what it was. Where did I have that?
There you go. See, too slow with that one, Blue.
Well, I don't have it. I don't have that one queued up for you every single time you guys pull it out.
But yeah, so for the rest of August, we're still doing Starship Troopers. I think we're on chapters 4 through 8 at the moment. But if you haven't read that book, just an amazing sci-fi book, which really it was the book that drew me into sci-fi literature. I'd always liked sci-fi media. I had not been a fan of sci-fi literature, just because it had sort of a stigma, like it's goofy. It's, like you're not reading a serious book. What is that? What are you reading there?
Go read Battlefield Earth and tell me you're not reading a serious book.
Yeah. Like read anything Heinlein wrote and tell me you're not reading a serious book. Yeah, I'm with you. Like Philip K. Dick, tell me you're not reading literature at that point. So I have a soft spot for Heinlein and this book in particular. Definitely check it out. If you liked Halo, The Fall of Reach, definitely check this book out. It's amazing. And jump in the book chat channel in our Discord server. Definitely check it out. I would love it if Blue would just like completely break this thing and let us do an episode over it.
It might have been a discussion.
Yeah.
But real quick for my shout outs, I wanted to give a big shout out to a user over on Reddit who goes by the username The Axe Rat, and you will see his stuff. I believe, I'm trying to remember who it was. Beard Grizzly is doing a YouTube video on his findings, but he basically found out that there were some additional lines of dialogue in Cade's stash, and these lines of dialogue are pretty awesome. They actually kind of point us into they clarify some things about what we thought about Guardians, and some of it's pretty cool. I believe there are 5 or 6 new lines basically that he found that kind of reopen the conversation about Guardians memories and what was the other one? The memories, and then also the idea of exactly kind of how the ghost goes about selecting things. Oh, and then also he makes there is a comment about how our guardian does not talk. There is that comment as well, which we knew about that one already, but it's still hilarious to listen to. And then, as always, our next conversation is going to be on the Striker Titans, so be sure to send in more amazing dispatches. You can do that through our email, which is focusfirechat@gmail.com. You can private message me over on Discord if that's easier for you, or you can use the hashtag AskFFC over on Twitter. So whichever way is the easiest, please be sure to get those over to us, and we will talk about them in next week's episode. And then finally, big shout out to a new sub over on Twitch, ORLDST. I have no idea if that is how you say that. I don't know how to say that many consonants together. But thank you so much for your support over on Twitch. We really appreciate that. Again, I'm just going to refer back to if you have any questions about what all that's going on, we kind of talked about that at the intro. And then one more time, we are doing the 100th episode giveaway. We will be having that information up on the website as usual. And, but basically what we need you to do, just go and give us a review over on iTunes, and be sure on that review to include your Discord username, because that's how I'm going to get in touch with you if you win. And then hashtag FFCD2. And that will be for a free digital copy of Destiny 2, or if you already have pre-ordered the game and you already have a copy, I will do a gift card in the amount of, I believe it was $60 for the console of your choice. And yes, that does include PC games. So definitely enter in on that one. Justin, you good to run through the outro?
Do it.
With that, we'll begin to wrap the chat up. Thank you again to those over on Twitch for coming to spend your evening with us. If you'd like to join us for a live streaming of the episode each week, please be sure to give us a follow over on twitch.tv/FocusFireChat. Links to all our other sites can also be found with our episode archives over on the new and improved www.focusfirechat.com. Please be sure to email us at focusfirechat@gmail.com with any feedback or questions for our team concerning the podcast. And please let us know how we're doing by giving us some feedback on iTunes as well. Also, make sure to check out our partner podcast within the Guardian Radio Network over on theguardiansofdestiny.com. So, until next time, focus your fire and may your light shine bright.